Good afternoon, everybody. This is Huge Pop of the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. We have a special guest today. Our special guest is an American female professional wrestling referee. She has a career as a professional wrestler. She also dabbed in some roller derby. Some of her ring names are Derby Doll, Layne Rosario, Cherry Lane, and Dirty Cherry. She currently resides in the greatest state of all, Florida. Please welcome to the show, Layne Rosario.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. It's hot here in Orlando.
It is. It's I live in the Panhandle, so we're finally got a cool spell, and that's nice. So we're gonna be visiting Orlando in February to go to Disney World. So hopefully it's cooler.
Yeah, it will be. I hope so.
So okay, I asked a question to all the wrestlers. What as a child did you get into as far as wrestling goes, and who were some of your heroes growing up?
So it was a classic case of I started watching wrestling with my dad when I was 5. He wanted a son so bad as his first child. He's like, I want a boy, I want a boy, I want a boy. Hi, here I am. So at the age of 5, we would sit down in front of the TV and watch wrestling together. My favorites growing up were Hulk Hogan, The Ultimate Warrior. It wasn't until I got a little bit older that I fell in love with women like Luna Vachon and Sherry Martel. So those were my early days.
Okay, so now you're a referee, correct?
Correct.
So we're gonna go back to when your derby days.
Perfect.
And you talked about your roller derby, because as a kid, I grew up watching a team from LA or California, and they wore yellow, and they were swinging each other around the ring. Then they tapped the hat. I thought that was the coolest thing. And so I was a roller derby fan back in the day, but so talk about your roller derby career.
So I had gotten inspired by the movie Whip It with Elliot Page now, but Ellen Page at the time. Drew Barrymore was in the movie. I watched it and I was like, this would be one, either a cool sport to try to get into, or 2, would make a really cool wrestling character. So I went and I tried out, and it was on the same days as training. So it was either to really make a choice, because I was approved to get on the team, but I decided I loved wrestling more. So since I chose that, hey, why not take the character and the influence of those women with me and pay them homage in a character form?
All right. Awesome. So is that how you first became interested in wrestling?
No, I became interested in becoming a wrestler at the ripe old age of about 17 years old. I had friends who were in wrestling at the time, did backyard wrestling and the term underground wrestling, where they were training and working like student shows at different wrestling schools. That's how I started to get into what independent wrestling was. I started going to shows at the famous Queens Elks Lodge in Queens, New York. Okay. So that's what started my journey into what independent wrestling was, and being around it and saying, hey, I think I may want to do this someday.
Okay. So can you describe your wrestling character you portray in the ring? Where'd you get that character from?
Well, originally it was myself. I'm very alternative, so to speak, because of the tattoos. I had more piercings at the time. I had weird colored hair. I am known to curse a little bit. So when I found the roller derby character, I was like, perfect. They envision and embody everything that basically I am, hard hitting, in your face, very alternative. So I took that into my heart and my soul, and I was like, look, I'm just going to embody that, turn my personality up about 100 and run with it and see where it goes. So that's really what inspired my character at first. When I started doing the derby,
Okay.
aspect of it.
Gotcha. So I talked to many people, and we'll touch on training and who trained you. Did you go to a training school, and who trained you in the wrestling aspect?
So I call myself a student of the game because I literally learned as I went. I started in a school in Brooklyn, New York. It was a famous school called the Doghouse, and I had trained there for a little while with Damian Dragon and a guy named Latha. So that's where I originally come from. But it wasn't until the years later where I found a home at two different schools. Ace Pro Wrestling in Jersey City, New Jersey. It's the school that AJ Lee came from.
Okay.
And then I moved closer to Long Island and started training at the NYWC school in Deer Park.
Okay. So what's been the most challenging aspect of breaking into the business, in the independent business as a female wrestler?
At the time, there wasn't many, and it was a lot of like the Divas era where they wanted more gimmicky style matches where you were looked at for being cute rather than your in-ring ability. So I was around kind of when the shift started happening, and I was put into more matches and it was with guys. So that's what the shift was for me then, and that's when I felt kind of difficult with it because it was me versus a man instead of me with another woman showing what we can actually do. And a lot of it for me was my own internal confidence because I
Mhm.
wasn't really confident at the time in my wrestling and who I was as a persona. Even after moving here to Florida, that's something that was a big jump for me to work on.
Okay. You mentioned gimmick matches and stuff like that, and I catch heat for this. So don't get mad at me, please. Don't come to the screen and get me. But I am not a fan of the punch bowl or wrestling matches where they brought out. I'm more of a fan of like what they're doing with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, and they got these in ring matches instead of all these gimmick matches. So, are
Oh,
you a fan
I
of?
agree.
Okay, that's why I don't. To me, that's not wrestling. To me, that's just I'll say this: it's a disrespectful way of showing your talent off, in my opinion. So that's where
Yeah,
I'm at.
I can kind of agree with that. At the time, I guess it was what was selling and making money, but I love
Yeah,
the evolution of it to where we are now
absolutely.
and how far we've come with showing that women are just as big as athletes as men are, and we should be held to the same regard as that.
Absolutely. Yes, you guys. I mean, you female wrestlers. What I would watch Cassandra Golden and one of your friends, Savannah Thorne. I've seen them battle each other numerous times, and it's just they put on a show, and it's just that they're so athletic, they're so amazing of how they put on a wrestling match. Those are probably two of my favorite independent wrestlers. So
I love me some Savannah.
yes, she's good. I've seen her at Darby's at the place over in Jacksonville. I can't remember the name. Where AEW had their matches. She was in a match with at the Mexican Tequila Festival over there, so that was fun. What does your training and preparation routine look like now that you're a referee compared to as you were a wrestler?
It is a bit different. I still try to when I train, I still try to keep in shape that way for wrestling things as well. But it's different now. I don't take as many bumps, thank goodness. My body thanks me for it.
Okay.
Um, but it's also within the gym doing the work. I hate this exercise, but it's the best one for referees ever. It's burpees. Burpees are amazing for referees because that's as our job. We literally get up and down. So
Yeah.
burpees are very good for that with helping your wind and your conditioning with that. But as no real difference, honestly, for me, except now instead of actually going through a match, I'm making the counts because we still do practice matches at training.
Mhm. Okay.
So I ref them instead of being involved in them that way. So that's where the difference has changed.
Okay. Now, how important is the communication between the ref, the wrestlers, and backstage to make the match flow?
It can make or break a match, to be honest with you. I never realized how important the referees really were until I became one and saw it from a different eye level and a perspective because a really good ref can help a match get over where it needs to, can be basically the communication. I've had matches recently where I've been the storyteller in between the two opponents, going back and forth and relaying messages, spots, time cues, this, that, the other. There's a lot more that goes into it that I don't even think I even realized before this. And now knowing all of it from being in it for a few years, I am so grateful that to be in this position now, because I absolutely love it. It's such a different thing. And when they say the third person in the ring, you really are the third person in that ring.
Right. You could make or break you could be the one that causes the match to look so stupid, whereas it could have been the greatest match someone ever seen. So, um, fan interactions as a ref compared to as a wrestler. I mean, you had both. I'm sure you've had fan interactions. So, what are those like?
When I'm in the ring or when I'm outside of it, just hanging out?
In the ring.
In the ring, it's different now, because when I was a heel, when I wrestled, I would play along and pander to the crowd a little bit with communication. Now, as a referee, I kind of don't so much anymore, because I'm focused on my job. So it has changed that way, where there's less of interaction for me now than there was when I was a wrestler. So that's the biggest difference.
So what about outside the ring with the fans now?
Oh, I get to be more me now. I love it.
There you go.
I get to truly be Layne. I don't have to be a character. I don't have to, be mean to people, because I don't have to play a specific role. I call it right down the middle. So I can truly just be myself. I love that, because I love the fans. Anybody who's bought a ticket, anybody who's come to the show, without them, we don't have a business. So
do you really call it down the middle, or do you sway depending on who you're reffing?
Oh, down the middle 100% of the time.
Okay. I've heard many referees, and when you're watching Raw and all these other places, we're going to call it right down the middle, and something fishy happens. So have you ever been in any of those referees, something fishy happening?
No. Would it be fun to? Maybe, but no, not as of yet.
All right. Are there any female wrestlers who served as a role model to you growing up in the business of wrestling, being a professional wrestler?
With their in-ring ability, I would have to say Medusa, Alundra Blaze, Luna Vachon, and Sherry Martel. Those would be ones that of the older generation that I would say that I grew up watching and idolizing, just because of their boldness and their strength.
Yeah.
In this current generation, it's a bit different, just because I ref now. But when I was wrestling, it was women like Lita. She was a daredevil. She was eccentric. She had tattoos. It was very alternative for the time. So
Right.
she was kind of a role model in that aspect for me during her time period.
Okay. So with the wrestling experience, do you have any advice to give aspiring young females wanting to come into the business as a wrestler?
Train. Before you even step foot in a ring for an actual match, train. Make sure you know your basics of professional wrestling, know how to be respectful in a locker room, say hi to everybody. There's a certain etiquette that I think needs to continue with, especially with us females, because it is a little bit different that way. But make sure that you train. Yeah, get your basics under you first, because that'll take you far.
Okay, so we're talking about back room. You mentioned back room. So as a referee currently and as a wrestler back in the day, how important was it for you to pay attention to the legends? Like if you ran across Charlotte Flair or whatever, I'm just naming off names, Lita. How important is it to you to shut up and listen and pick their brains?
That's a wrestler. That should be for every wrestler's role. When you're being given advice, or somebody who is a veteran in this business is talking, mouth shut, ears open, because you can always learn by keeping your ears open to what they have to say. And that's just a rule that I was brought up with, is that, mouth shut, ears open, you can always learn.
Do you think that's lacking in today's independent scene?
It could be. I'm not 100% sure that everybody's that way, but it could be.
Okay. Can you share any memorable or significant moments in your career as a wrestler that stand out to you? Oh, these are game changers for me.
I'm trying to think, because there was a lot. One of them for me was trying out for Women of Honor to go to Stardom. I did a tryout for that. So that was a pinnacle moment for me because I was amongst other women I had looked up to that were doing more on the indies at that point than I was. It was a big chance for me. It was a chance for me to kind of go in there and show my confidence alone. Match wise, it was honestly when I had first started getting to travel at different places and going outside of Florida to wrestle, it was a growing experience for me. So those are I would say, the ones that shaped me. It was just overall life experiences, travel experiences. There's not one key one that I would say changed it, except for one of the last matches I had as a wrestler. That one I will never forget. It was for a Rise show. It was after a Mick Foley seminar here in Orlando. And I wrestled, and for the first time in my wrestling career, I felt like the aha moment where my confidence just hit. And I was just like, wow, okay, this is what this feels like. I'm not second guessing anything. I'm not overthinking it. I'm just having fun and enjoying it.
All right. So can you discuss the importance of character development and storytelling in wrestling from a wrestler's point of view and a referee's point of view?
So from a wrestler's point of view, it is very important for character development because that's what you're known for. You're known as what your character is. I would look at, like I said, the movie Whip It. I took a movie and basically used that as inspiration. You can get lines from different movies, TV shows for promo. So character development is really important because that's the first thing people see. They see your character, and if you blend it in right with your moveset, total package 100%. As a referee now, it's a bit different because I don't necessarily at this point have a referee character. I know there's some people that do, but I don't. So for me, there's no real character development other than just every day working on my skills.
Okay. Now, I know you're not wrestling at the current moment. Do you ever see yourself getting back into the ring as a wrestler in anytime?
At this point, I'm going to say never. Would I like one last match? Yeah, but I'm really, really happy being a referee. I feel like it's where I fit in wrestling, and I probably should have always fit. Like, when you just find that role in your life that just changes things.
Yeah.
This changed it for me.
Awesome. So who would that one match would you want it to be with?
There is a woman in CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling here in Florida, and her name is Invidia. I believe that I would want it with her because I look at her like a younger version of myself. And that would be, to me, one of the matches I would like to have. Also, yeah, I think for now, that would be the one that I would want to do. I don't know much else that I would want to do at this point, but that would be one.
Okay. Now, is there any wrestlers, female wrestlers, male wrestlers that are up and coming that you think that we should look out for because at that match that you've refed?
There's about 3 or 4 that I can quickly name off. One is a very close friend of mine. She was signed to NXT for a very short time. Mila Moore. She goes as the bunny. Invidia, who I just named, who is from Coastal Championship Wrestling. Ozzy Killmeister is another one. And yeah, those would be if I had to pick right off the top of my head right now, those 3.
Okay. How do you promote yourself and your brand as an independent wrestler, and how important is social media as a wrestler in that regards?
I can give that to you both ways as wrestler and ref because it's basically the same.
Okay.
Content for social media, content, posting videos you've done, highlight reels, where you're going to be next. Social media is a very good tool for all of that and getting your name out there if used correctly. Also, your personal brand on social media, making sure, like I said, content's out there. You're posting who you are as a person or your character, even doing short promo videos. So that's, a lot of it now in this generation is just that. And being personable when you're backstage as well and going to shows, introducing yourself, those types of things too, and being present in that.
Okay. Are there any specific rivalries that you had back when you were in the ring wrestling that stick out?
Yes. I had a couple of matches with Santana Garrett, who I absolutely loved those with her. It's fun getting to play a heel against such an amazing and dynamic babyface and somebody who's just an overall positive person. It's such a great way to ping pong off of each other to do it that way.
Yeah. So, what message or impact did you want to hope to leave on the wrestling community in your as being a female wrestler? What was your mission? What was your goal to that? This is what I want people to remember.
It's the same thing now still as being a ref, that I want to leave the business better than I found it, one. And two, it's just being a positive light and a positive influence that you can rock who you are, even at somebody who's 5 foot tall like I am. A light-skinned Puerto Rican, like rock and own who you are as a person and confidence. If I had to leave one thing behind, is she was confident and she was different and she owned who she was as a person. And
Okay.
maybe I should do the same thing.
All right. Cool. Before I get into your the ref topic, I'm a foster parent. My wife and I run the emergency shelter here in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. We have 8 kids, and we sit around the dinner table all the time. They know, and I do this podcast as a form of self-care. So I get to sit on this computer for an hour and a half hour to talk to people like yourself. It's my way of getting rid of life, or not getting rid of life, but stepping away from what's going on. It's like a break. But so they know that I'm doing it, and so they go, "Who are you talking to this time, Mr. Scott? Who are you talking to this time, Mr. Scott?" So they have questions. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, if I'm gonna ask these questions from the kids.
No, I love it.
First one. What's your favorite movie?
Okay, twofold: Love Actually and The Crow.
Okay. Favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese and pizza.
Pizza. Okay. We have pizza party on every Thursday on the playground. We get pizza from Domino's. So
love it.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes.
Okay. Hobby. What hobbies do you have?
I love to write and I love to read. Those are my hobbies.
Any favorite music?
Oh, I'm a rocker chick through and through. My favorite band is Him.
Okay. Do you acknowledge the tribal chief?
Maybe.
There's your question. So, in my research on your refereeing thing, did I read where you refed in Impact and tried out or something like that for ROH or something like that? Can you run us through that?
Oh, okay. So the 4 pinnacles. Got it. That's what I'm going to call these moments in my life.
All right.
For Ring of Honor, I was actually supposed to work for them under their women's division before they closed down. And during the pandemic, but the pandemic obviously changed a lot of that. So that didn't unfortunately happen because of COVID. That's one. But I did work for Women's Wrestling Army, which was Maria Kanellis Bennett and Bobby Cruz. So I did essentially kind of work with the idea of that. They just changed the name and branded it with something different and made it their own. Okay. So that, yes. Impact Wrestling, I did back in 2021. I refereed for their Knockouts Knockdown pay-per-view. Okay. So that was a big deal for me. I was so honored and blessed to have that opportunity. It was such a growing experience and learning experience for me. Loved every part of it. And then December 2019, I had a tryout with NXT for a referee position. That's what started my reffing journey. Is I did that and realized how much I actually really loved it and stuck with it ever since. And then last but not least, like I said, I did the most recently I worked for Boca Raton Wrestling, and they did a collab show with NWA. So I got to ref for that as well. So that was really fun to do.
All right. How recent was that?
About 3 months ago.
Okay. All right, cool. I have guys that are on there from Cody James and Koa. They do some stuff in NWA. So actually, I got a shout out to Martin Stone. He's the one that said, "Dude, you need to get a hold of referee Layne. How is it, Layne?
You can call me Layne or Layne. That's perfectly fine with me. Yeah.
He's the one that said, "Hey, here's her." Then he gave me a picture of your Facebook page, and that's what started this trying to get a hold of you. So Martin Stone, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this. This is fun.
Referee question. How did you get started as an independent wrestling referee, and what motivated you to pursue that role?
Okay, so I'll be transparent about it. About 2.5 weeks before my actual tryout, I got an email saying, "Hey, we were given your name to be a referee for that you would be a good fit for this. Is there any way that you would want to come in for a tryout?" And it was just 2.5 weeks beforehand. Usually people get months notice. I got
Right.
2.5 weeks. so
Dang.
so I went there. I did the same tryout as everybody else, those even going for to be a wrestler. Except we didn't have to do the bump drills. We literally just did pin drills where they watched how we moved in the ring and things like that. That's basically where it all started from. So I will always be grateful to WWE for that experience to do one of their hard 4-day tryouts because I got to see what that actually entails. I made myself proud. I made my dad proud at the time, doing something like that. And it gave me the confidence. I was like, wow, I really, really like this. I'm going to continue with this.
Now, is that the picture I seen with you and a bunch of the other referees along the ringside? I think.
Standing with a bunch of other girls, yes.
Okay.
I didn't where I put and then the picture of me as a ref. Yes, that collage picture, that was me at my tryout and then me staying a ref. So that was the then and now picture.
Okay. Yeah. What's the most challenging aspect of being a ref in the independent scene compared to being a wrestler in the independent scene?
Corralling some of the men in this business, to be honest, keeping people in line, especially as a 5 foot tall female. I have to make my confidence and my words and being tougher because I'm such a short human that sometimes it doesn't get taken very seriously. So that's why I've learned to be a bigger dynamic force in that realm.
Right.
And honestly, there's a lot that goes on to that. So that's been the biggest challenge, is learning a different aspect of it in the beginning, because there's so much more that goes on to it other than just remembering a match. You have to know time cues, where to be, your positioning around them, and not be in the way as well.
Gotcha. So what would you say to fans that say this wrestling stuff is fake?
You can't fake gravity.
Perfect.
No other way to say it.
What are the key responsibilities of a wrestling referee before, during, and after a match?
So during, I'm at least with the company that I work for a lot here, it's being more of like a logistics type of person. It's making sure that each match is knowing where they're supposed to be. Like if they're on next, they're in the backstage getting ready, or they're by the curtain getting ready in the gorilla position to go out to the ring. That's for me, it's assigning referees, saying who gets what match. Also, it's while you're in the ring, is giving them time cues. It's communicating between the wrestlers. If they need to communicate between each other and they physically can't, me being the voice that steps in and communicates for them. Also, being a mom, so to speak, we're making sure that nobody's gotten hurt during the match, checking in on them. Those checks, when I'm checking on people, that's a real thing, to make sure that no accidents have happened, nobody's, that everybody's okay. So there's, just communication, even if there's communication through the backstage area, through headsets, it's relaying messages. So it's all around. There's a lot of different things that go into that.
So this is my opinion, and I'm not taking any disrespect to the workers, the wrestlers that in the match. It seems to me that the referee has a bigger responsibility than I ever thought they did, or probably one of the biggest responsibilities of a match. Would that be accurate?
I would agree with you there. I do believe it's a lot of different responsibility, but it's over multiple matches. So yes, is it more responsibilities? Yes.
Okay. How do you handle situations where wrestlers break the rules or become unruly in the ring? Like, have you ever had a match where the guys just didn't do what they're supposed to do and they didn't care?
Not really a lot of that has happened. If they step out of line, I'm tough. I'm going to disqualify you. Like, I'm going to try to end the match if it needs to. I'm a big voice for a 5 foot tall woman.
I can hear. Yeah. What safety measures do you take to protect both yourself and the wrestlers during a match that nothing would ever bad happen.
Honestly, just being your head on a swivel, especially as a ref, you have to be able to be looking at everything at the same time. So that's a biggest one for me, and making sure that you're checking on wrestlers, because I'm very big with that. Like, if you're actually really hurt, because tell me, don't, oh, I'm fine, and then after the match be like, yeah, I dinged my head on that. Like, just let be honest and letting me know. So that for me, when I check up on somebody, it's really because either one, I'm validly concerned, or because I'm just making sure.
Okay. Can you talk to us about your biggest match you've ever refereed?
I would say right now it was two of the matches one of the matches at the Knockouts Knockdown pay-per-view for me would be one of the biggest matches I've refereed so far as women.
Okay.
As far as women, because it meant that much to me at the time, and I consider that a big one, was Deonna Purrazzo and Masha Slamovich.
Okay.
After that match, Gail came out and hired Masha.
Okay.
So it was a very, very big deal for me to be part of that with them. That whole experience was I would say top of the line for me.
I mean, heck yeah, Gail Kim and Peraza, yeah, that'd be sick.
If to referee the two of those two, yes, very much so.
Yeah, but no, to share the ring with those two, even the lady that you mentioned as well, that would be it has to be an honor for you to get the call to do that. I would think.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. How do you communicate with the wrestlers during the match? Do you have an earpiece? I see in a lot of it, and then they're talking to you in front, and then when people think that you're just down there, your mouth is obviously going throughout the whole match. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm a talker, so during the match, I will be communicating things from the back, or I will be communicating time cues that I know already, or communicating, like I said, in between the two workers in the ring. Like, it's very much so a very communicative thing for me. So I'm always talking, because either I'm yelling at somebody to get out of the ring when they shouldn't be there, yelling, hey, get back in the ring, and doing my counts, or it's communicating information.
Okay. So now, independence compared to ROH, NXT experiences, is there any different challenges or unique challenges that set aside an indie wrestling event that you ref compared to your experience even doing that women's championship with Peraza? Is there any difference, or is referee just refereeing?
It is different with different places, because I'm a firm believer in you work to where you're working. So if you're working with TV, like let's say Impact, you're on a very tight schedule on what you need to have filmed during a certain time. So the time cues are even more so important. Whereas in independent wrestling, you kind of have a little bit more wiggle room with times. You should never go over your time if you're given a certain amount of time, but there is wiggle room. They have a little bit more space, where if you're going to a commercial break, you have to let the wrestlers know that. Whereas in independent wrestling, there's not a commercial break. So there's less structure, but the same structure, if that makes any type of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I like I said, my first independent wrestling scene was an XIW Extreme Impact Wrestling event, and my gosh, you guys do crazy, stupid stuff in those independent events. I'm like, what? I mean, if I was if I had to say something to a wrestling fan, I'd say I would rather go to an independent show than a mainstream show. Now, do you feel the same way as a rep? Would you rather wrestle an independent show, or do you want to wrestle that or ref that match in the big leagues, I guess, if you want to call it?
Both.
Both?
I feel like I have a love for both. I have a love for where I came from in the independent circuit, but I also fell in love with being a TV ref, even if it was for just that one event. It was just such a different dynamic that I really love both, honestly. And I love them both for very different reasons.
I'm going to ask the stupidest question ever, because I know that I know that you work at, I think, Universal Studios, so that should be my answer. Do you see yourself making professional wrestling referee a career that you could be gone all the time, or is that just not what you're looking for?
Oh, I want that for my life. I try to manifest it every day. I
All
would
right.
love to. I would love to. As much as I love working for Universal Studios, my ultimate dream would be to have a contract where I was traveling and being a referee full time. It's what I love to do.
Okay. Do you see any opportunities in the near future?
I hope so, and I feel like the doors are slowly opening for me in that realm of things. So we'll see where this road takes me. But like I said, I manifest it every day, and I work hard so that I can put content out there, get my name out there, hone my skills by reps and, just being a very professional, positive person when I'm in the locker room and always portray that.
Is there any referees that you watch and look and say, "Yeah, this is how you do it," or is that not what you guys do? I know because I know wrestlers take video footage of their people and they study it. So do you study other referees and how you do your style? Is it just is Layne is that your style? Is it just you who you are?
It's the same thing as being a wrestler, but you just put your own spin on it. So I watch other referees. I watch AEW referees. I watch NXT referees. I even watch main roster ones and even the ones that Impact. There are a few that I do watch. There is a guy named Frankie Gastineau in Impact. I do watch his work because I've known him for years on the independent circuit here in Florida. So I do watch a lot of him. As far as WWE, it was somebody that was there. I watch Mike Chioda. I watch um, Charles Robinson. I watch Jessica Carr. I even watch now somebody I consider a friend in Aja. But I do watch a lot of different referees, and I say, hey, this would work for me. This doesn't work for me, or I can add my own spin on it. But I am very much so a constant student where I'm always learning and growing.
Awesome. So how do you establish a rapport with the wrestlers and promote positive working relationship backstage?
Honestly, by not being mean. I'm a very positive and happy person. So, and professional that way. I go up to them, I ask them what they're doing for the match, if there's any specific spots that they need me for, if they need anything. Like I try to be almost like a mom in the locker room and be like, hey guys, I'm here. If anybody needs help with anything, I'm your go-to. If you have any spots for me in the match, let's go over it. There's anything you need me to be a certain place for, being communicative is a very big is very big to me on that.
Okay. So how do you handle high pressure situations such as title matches and matches with a lot on stake? A lot at stake.
Just being more so there and more so communicative that way before the match to see
Okay.
if there's anything specific that is needed. And just literally, like I said, just being more communicative and asking, hey, is there any specific things that you need me to do within the match? Is there any specific positioning you need me to be in for a certain thing that you're going to do?
Okay.
And honestly, just, I treat every match like it's a title match. Like I go into every match as professional as the opening match as I do a main event.
Okay. So there's like you got cage matches, you have battle royals, you have last man standing matches, all these other stipulation matches, and then we have regular matches. Is there any certain stipulation match that you could care less to ref, and are they different each of them individually?
They're different each individually. I've done some no DQ matches within the last year or so. There's not really a style that I would not want to do, except for maybe hardcore wrestling. It's just I'm not a big fan of blood. Would I ref it 100% just to get the experience of it, but it's not something I'm actively going to go look for.
Okay. How do you stay physically fit and mentally sharp to keep with the fast paced action in the ring? That's because that you guys move around like crazy.
Cardio,
Cardio.
cardio, burpees, in ring training. So as long as you keep working and honing your craft on a weekly basis, then you should be good. Then you should be good, and that's what I do.
So now you work at Universal Studios. You're a
Hmm.
ref. You have to fit time in the gym. Now, are you in the gym every day? And and are you a mom? How do you wrap this all together to pursue the dream that you have?
Time management. Time management is a very big thing. I am not a mom of an actual flesh child, but I am a proud fur mama. I
Okay.
have I have cats and a dog, or did up until recently. But it's time management. It's just making time for things, whether that means getting up early and doing things, staying up a bit later to get certain things done. I find somehow how to manage things and fit them into my day.
Okay. So, what do you enjoy the most about being an independent referee?
Like I said, it's where I found my confidence. I love being the third man in the ring, or woman, I should say. I love the communication. I love being able to have a front row seat to the action and being a part of it. I love that I can now, at this point in my life, be myself. My body thanks me for it as well. I've just grown so much and I've been able to travel so much and just gain so many different experiences being a referee that that's what it is for me.
Okay. So, can you share with your thoughts on the evolving role of female referees or female wrestling referees, and give some confidence to females that are looking at watching this video, that would could be uplifting to some people.
If I can do it at 5 foot, 5 foot tall, non-athletic woman and fall in love with it and do what I do, you can as well. I love the evolution of how many female referees there are in the industry now. I love it. I love to see it. I love that almost every major wrestling company has one now, and it's an honor to be a part of that.
So, I'm going to name some names that your past ring names, and tell us about that character if you would.
Okay.
Derby Doll,
Hard hitting, alternative, just me.
Cherry Lane.
Cherry Lane was my first ever character, and she was a very big brat who was almost in the early stages of what Tiffany Stratton was, where I was very bratty, very snooty, very thought I was too high class and too cool for everybody.
Okay. I would have thought Dirty Cherry was that, but I got to hear what Dirty Cherry was.
So Dirty Cherry was the brainchild of one Mr. Mikey Whipwreck from ECW. They in NYWC they had a group of guys that did a very southern trailer park faction, and I was brought into that as the female. They were called the Dirties. So
Okay.
since my name was Cherry, they nicknamed me Dirty Cherry. So that's where Dirty Cherry came to be. And
Okay.
those are memories. Being that character are memories I'll never forget. And I look at them, and I've spoken of them recently, and they're memories I'll never forget, and I will cherish those.
Is there one
That was a
specific
lot of fun.
memory? Is there one specific memory you could share with us?
Yes, there was one time where the Dirties were watching another tag team in the ring, like a tag team match in the ring, and we sat along ringside eating out of a bucket of chicken and sitting on lawn chairs watching a match. That was fun to do. That was just so funny of a character. And there was another one where we wrestled at a camp, like a sleepaway camp for children. And there was a spot where a wrestler had to bite me on the behind with me
Nice.
running and chase and like trying not to get caught again.
That's that's a good story. In your video that we posted on social media, you said to yourself Latino Zebra.
Yep,
Right? That's
I am your Latina zebra. Yep.
yep. Yep. Anything about behind that, except for that's who you are?
It's exactly that. It's owning for one of the first times in my wrestling career or ref career who I am outside of wrestling. I am a very, very proud Hispanic woman,
Okay.
and that's who I am. And I portray that even in matches. I've called matches where I've done counts and calls in Spanish. I am bilingual fluently in
Nice.
Spanish as well as English.
That's awesome. Mount Rushmore of female wrestlers.
Okay. Luna Vachon, Sherry Martel, because not many people remember that she was a wrestler and before even managing.
Right.
So there's that. Medusa, and I'm trying to think of my fourth. That's a big one. Oh, Leilani Kai, half of the Jumping Bomb Angels. No, I'm sorry, the Glamour Girls.
Okay.
So Leilani Kai.
You have a Mount Rush. You have Mount Rushmore of men.
Yep.
All right, let's hear it.
Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and who was the other one? There was one more. I'm forgetting the name now. So Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and one of my personal favorites was Andre the Giant.
Okay. Gotcha. Mine would be Hulk Hogan, Sting. I think that era with Hulk Hogan turning against Macho Man Randy Savage at Daytona Beach, dropping that leg, joining NWO. That is what changed wrestling for me. So I had to give Hulk Hogan, Sting, Scott Hall, and probably, Stone Cold would be. I'd have to put him up there because he changed. Yeah, I could go on. There's so many that I'd love to have a chance to meet. So. Is there anything that you would tell the fans that are watching this to close out the show and in your own way, where to find you, what's happening what's going on next?
I have recently posted my calendar on my social medias. So on Instagram as well as Twitter, I am Latina Ref Layne, Layne. And those are basically the two platforms I use the most. I'm not really a Facebook type person so much anymore, except for, my personal life, but it would be there where you can find me. The next show I think I have coming up, it's Friday the 13th, one of my favorite days because I am a spooky girl. It is going to be in Kissimmee, Florida for Coastal Championship Wrestling, and it will be in Kissimmee at Old Town. And funny enough, it's right next door to a haunted house that is open all year round.
So now you say haunted house. So my wife and I have been married for 31 years. 30 years. On our honeymoon, we went to Orlando to go to SeaWorld and Disney and wherever. And we went to Uptown Station, I believe, at that point in time, or Old Town or somewhere. They had Church Street Station. Yes, Church Street Station. And they had the largest haunted house that I guess in the area. I guess it's closed down since then. But I have never seen my wife so scared because I volunteered her to be the leader of the group because I sure wasn't going to be the leader of the group because I didn't need all that. And that was probably the funniest thing I've ever been part of. That was epic. So there's now one in Kissimmee, you said?
Yeah, and it's multiple floors.
Nice. Because this one was multiple floors too. And I can remember there's one segment where we walk to these stairs and this guy is sitting on the stairs and he goes, "Be quiet. My master is eating upstairs." So he goes, "Go." So we walked upstairs and there's a couple of Asians with us, my wife and I, and a couple other people. We walk in this room and there's this knight sitting there eating dinner and there's nowhere to go. And I mean, I didn't see a door. So I said, "Hey, where do we go next?" This guy slams down his fist. He said, "Shut up." And we all bolted. We turned around and went out the door. So it was pretty funny, but
love it.
Yeah. So, again, thank you, Layne, for being on our show. I'm going to play an exit video, but I would like to talk to you in the lobby, so don't go nowhere. So Huge Pop Wrestling fan, the Latina Zebra. Thank you a lot for everything. See you guys next time on the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast.
All my dogs, make some noise up in this house. Who is in the house?
Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind, cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind, cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out.
Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with the devil, because when he's dealing with you, you cannot get on this level.
Fight with Adrian Whispers, like a fight with a king. It's like a fight with an army, they got the tanks and everything.
He's leaving bruises and stitches, possibly leaving you crippled, cause when he sets up the table and sends you straight through the middle.
6 sadistic free, beat that ass with a light bulb. Leave a piece of glass embedded in the back of your skull. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground, cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the ground, cause when your body hits the canvas, then your ass is knocked out.